We're recording. So I like to begin with Tesara Marketplace.
Well, it's not just Tesara. It's Tesara and Durro and Handyman and the girls.
Well, true, but right now it's Tesara, small group of girls, and Handyman in the marketplace. So basically, Tesara in the marketplace.
Okay. So just for everybody else who might not have seen it, Tesara takes Cheery, Lena, Cavi, and Aura. As a reminder, Aura is 7, Lena is 5, and Cavi is 8. Actually, I think Lena is 6. Yeah, she's 6 now. So, Traveler,
Yes, ma'am.
are you ready to? I mean, am I just?
I was waiting for you to go. I was waiting for you to go ahead and keep. I thought you were still doing.
Oh, sorry. So no, she'll take those girls and she'll ask them where they want to go first.
Okay, and they go ahead and they all pick 4 different locations.
Okay. So Tesara says, keep very close to me, and we'll go to the first one.
Okay.
I don't know what the first vendor is.
Yeah. So you walk up there and you walk up there and they're selling little trinkets and things. You notice that some of them have unique twists and almost like a rope art.
Okay.
It's made out of some type of leathery material.
Do the girls look interested in any of it?
One does, and she's playing around with it and fiddling with it. And you notice a lot of different items here. Some of them appear like there's a doll of a of it looks like a woman. It's carved out of bone. It's got like flaps between under the wings, and it's got 4 arms. Looks oddly familiar, very crude way.
It looks familiar. What's familiar about it?
4 arms, kind of flaps, as if they're avian in nature.
Um, Polling the party. What am I missing?
The Prilec.
Thank you, Astra. Oh,
Welcome.
so she sort of kneels down to take a look at it and says, I think I know what that is.
The woman running the stand walks. Ah, Handyman translates, of course. See, you've seen goddess.
Ooh, that's a pretty name. She smiles at the girl holding the doll. What is she the goddess of?
The winds.
Then she's a very powerful goddess.
Yeah. It wasn't about the storms wouldn't come, riders with them.
She nods and then she looks over. I'm not sure which girl is holding the doll.
Say again?
I'm not sure which of the girls is holding the doll.
Oh, that's,
Go to the field trip, IB.
yeah. What I'm trying to do, but wasn't expanded.
It's either going to be Lena, Cavi, or Aura.
Yeah, we'll say Aura.
So Tesara smiles at her and says, "What do you think, Aura? Do you like her?"
Looks pretty.
Well, a wind goddess is gotta be beautiful, doesn't she?
To see the painting of the room.
She looks familiar, something that I've seen before, not on Origin.
Is applied to anywhere wishes, even places of off world.
Yes, indeed. Would you like it, Aura? So she turns to Handyman, who I'm assuming still has the money.
He handed over to Durro, but Durro gave you guys there.
How much? So then does Handyman give her the money or do I give her the money?
You can give her the money.
Okay, I give it to her. Thank you.
So go ahead and buy it. And she's wrapping it up, and you see a young woman carrying water, and she's struggling past a group of people. She stumbles and spills the water, and you know the people kind of get out of the way, but no one pays any mind to her.
What do the girls do?
Your girls, nothing.
Tesara is looking at the girl and frowning, and she stands up, but she doesn't move towards her because she's paying attention to what the others are doing.
Okay, they're just going about their business, and up her bucket and goes back and covers more water and continues to struggle it towards a tent.
Is she wearing anything different looking than the rest of them that would denote maybe a different class of people?
Very subdued in colors. In fact, almost lacking colors.
But she's the only one that looks like that?
No, turn around, you notice there are others.
Are they all female or male as well?
Male as well.
So, Tesara smiles at the girls and they go to the next stall that they wanted to go to.
Okay.
And she's watching them to see, what they might take interest in. Same kind of thing from the last booth.
Well, they, you know, take interest in just individual items that sparks their attention. There's nothing unique about them. just some buy, like one girl will buy herself a outfit, another girl will buy herself a hat. Interesting to watch them shop because they, like I said, even to their standards, are pretty primitive.
Right. I was thinking more along the lines of, is there any jewelry or anything that they, might take interest in as well?
No, that's actually the one thing they kind of stay away from is jewelry. It doesn't appear to interest them at all.
Okay, interesting to note. So they just go from place to place, and when they're done, is there anything else interesting that happens before they head back to Duro and the other girls?
That depends on what Tesara is doing while she's doing this. Is she gonna engage the locals, or is she just gonna watch the girls and kind of just follow them?
No, she'll stick with the girls. I mean, if somebody comes up to her, she wouldn't snub them, but I
Right.
don't think anybody's going to come up to her.
Nope.
So at one point, when the girls are all like immersed in something, she'll look over at Handyman and she'll kind of lean in and whisper, apparently, there are different caste systems here. Have you noticed?
Of course. The professor has me well trained in matters.
Of course. Silly of me. Of course you would know. I just find it interesting. I wonder what they mean.
No, they're obviously slaves.
She gets a sad look on her face, and then she sighs and nods. I hadn't thought that they were. Thought perhaps they were just servants. We just don't know if they're paid or not.
No, judging by what I see, look at the hands, face, the lack of color compared to their contemporaries. No, those are slaves.
I wish I hadn't asked. She gives him a sad smile and then turns back to the girls.
You may well turn to you. Really, you did not think that these primitives didn't practice slavery. Slavery is common in all primitive.
Out of character, it wasn't in ours, am I right?
Say again?
But just out of character asking Duro, sorry, I should have said that. Duro, that's not common of Lannis, is it? Duro. Apparent. Oh, there he is. Okay. Well, he must be busy with family stuff. To my knowledge of reading the backstory that Duro wrote, well, that Wanderer wrote for us,
Did nobody read the text chat? I answered your question there.
I
Oh,
don't see it.
Yeah, it's right there above the
Oh,
cat.
wait,
Close it up.
sorry, I do. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I missed it above the gif of the cat. She only nods at Handyman. My own village did not, but I know of those who did. It makes me sad for them, that's all.
Well, that's how you feel. Though, I must encourage a point of perspective as the professors.
She's just going to stand there looking at him, waiting for him to finish.
The professor views situations like a scientific perspective, perspective of studying. If you step away from that, and forget that this is not your, then what is there to study but your own impact on society?
Interesting perspective.
Now, mind you, there is nothing wrong with impact societies, changing them. But philosophical.
Well, considering that Phelan and Jaren have been here as long as they have, if the change is due to be made, if they want to make it, it'll be them, not me. I I don't like putting my nose where it doesn't belong.
Well, then shall we regroup with Master Theltanus and go ahead and allow his group to go out there and go?
Well, I do want to buy myself this hat because I am tired of the sun beating down on my head. She smiles at him and finds a pretty hat and buys it, and then they head back to Durro.
Okay, so Duro, after about 30 minutes, Tesara and her group returns.
All right. Anything interesting happened to them in the meantime? They were just kind of hanging out in the shade and waiting.
Well, you did manage to see the locals moving about. Clearly, they are it, happening, going on.
Any new developments on that front?
What you can tell, no, but it definitely seems like there's it definitely seems like there's going to be a fight.
Curious. And I suppose because of their unique status in the Force, he cannot feel any tension or anything.
Nope, but he can see it. The zeal getting.
Can he wave her over?
He'll come over.
I can't help but notice all of the activity. What's going on?
You're going to defend our
I see. So the new arrivals have been decided to be real.
and threat.
Well, of course.
Will you fight with us? Have impressive way to. I apologize. You fight with us. Your off-world magic would help us greatly.
No, I'm afraid I must remain neutral.
Why? We've
This isn't
Go ahead.
this isn't my world or my fight.
We have sheltered you. We're your friends. Does your people not fight beside your friends?
Yes, we do. However, there are alternatives to fighting.
There can only be one queen of the tribes. If there's not, then there will be wars.
And is there not a way for the spirits to choose other than bloodshed?
That is how the spirits. Whichever side is victorious. And she pauses. It looks like she's being waved over by a group. Excuse me. And she'll turn and walk back to a group. And there's like a group of warriors standing around. And in the center of them, Duro, give me a spot check.
All right. 20, but not a nat 20. Just that's the final result.
Well, you can see the center that same trader that handyman struck a deal with.
Let me guess, he has his new acquisitions.
Can't tell because of the number of people around him, but it's clear that whatever he has, they're very interested.
Well, no doubt his new acquisitions. Wonderful.
And at that point, Tesara's walking up.
Out of character, real quick. How big is this market?
Um, I think in total there's probably maybe 50, 60 people here, including vendors and slaves.
Okay, so when he sees her coming back, he will say, "Well, that was faster than expected."
Whoa. He said
Yes, it
people.
was.
Like,
Did the girls get to see everything they wished?
Yes. Aura, show him your doll.
And she will definitely show you her doll, which looks oddly familiar.
Yes, very interesting. And he'll look at Tasara and add, "I wonder how that got all the way out here."
Out of character, I was looking for the name of the goddess. Mike, can you put it in the text chat by the fire so that I have it? Okay.
Of course, spelling and pronunciations are always two different things for.
They called her Karaya. She's their wind goddess.
I see. So she is culturally significant to these people.
Very much so, considering that the wind is what makes the storms happen. It is a pre-lock.
I mean, that much is obvious.
Kind of fascinating, isn't it?
So if she's a wind goddess, does that mean that the other elements have their own gods or goddesses?
Likely. I did not get that far.
Oh, these are the kind of xenoanthropological questions that one must ask.
She smiles at him. You're up next. Oh, and she kind of leans in a little. The ones without much color to their outfits. I'm sure you're far, far ahead of me on this, but they're slaves. I did not know that these people had slaves until now.
Well, it's common practice among lesser developed cultures.
She nods, and wherever he was he sitting?
In the
No,
shade.
he was in the shade, but he was just talking to Niziel, so no, he wasn't sitting.
Okay. Well, the market's all yours, and then the girls for your turn.
Yes, well, I'd like to give them a chance to shop. I'm just a little torn. And he will glance after where Niziel disappeared off to. It sounds like there is about to be conflict between this tribe and the visiting one. A contest of arms to determine whose queen will rule.
Shocking. But she looks back at the market. I don't know if you want me to roll spot, but are the vendors like looking nervous and packing up, or are they just simply staying where they are?
They're pretty much staying where they are. You don't need a roll on this one here. They're just kind of you can tell that they're aware of what's going on, but for them, this is normal.
Well, the vendors don't look at all nervous that any of the violence may come here to the market. I have no idea how much time you have left, so the choice is yours. We stay and allow the girls to have their time in the market, and then we go elsewhere, or we leave now.
Yes, well, leaving now wouldn't be fair to the others, would it?
She shakes her head at him with a smile.
No, my main concern is I was asking Nyzeal what was going on as I saw her going by, and she was called away by a group of warriors who were looking very excited and surrounding the merchants that Handyman acquired our funds from.
Does he point to where that's happening?
If it is still in sight, he will gesture subtly towards it.
It is.
So she looks over, but not like so obvious that it's ridiculous. She's just sort of surreptitiously glances over, then back at you. I see.
Do you remember what Handyman sold him to acquire our funds?
Out of character, I don't. Somebody help me out?
Blasters.
Handyman assured them that they were lower yield than, or lower tech than the ones that would be normally carried by our party, but it is still better tech than what these people have. They are still firearms, where these people still use bows and arrows.
She looks concerned now for the first time. So it's to be a slaughter, is it?
Well, I'm not sure how much difference two primitive blasters will make, but it sure is better technology than anything that either tribe possesses already. I'm afraid we may have inadvertently helped this tribe.
Yes.
Add that to the fact that we know the loser does not walk away from this alive in the name of peace, and I am talking about the contestants for Queen and not their warriors.
So whoever the loser is, not only does the baby die, but everybody else in the party. And if the other party wins, that means
No,
everybody else in this village?
I didn't say that the entire losing warrior party dies. I was pointing out that the child of the losing side is put to death.
Shiri will grab Tesara's. Well, first, let me ask this question: what language are you guys speaking? Are you speaking Cybisi, which is the aforementioned required language on the gun gear, or are you speaking another language?
I'm
Durro was purposefully speaking basic
Okay.
because of the content of this conversation.
Yeah, I agreed. Tessara learned her lesson once before, and she already knows that Chiri is upset and nervous about this. So there's no way in hell she'd be speaking Cybisti to Duro. And we should have said that before, and I'm sorry we didn't.
Yes, out of character, I got sidetracked. I did mean to specify.
Understood. Thank you. Shiri will do nothing because she doesn't fully understand the conversation.
Yeah, so the question now becomes, do we involve ourselves, and if so, how much? Iziel already asked if I would fight beside this village. I told her I must remain neutral, and she pointed out that they have sheltered us and consider us their friends, and do we not fight alongside our friends? I would rather find a different solution to this problem.
Um, Duro knows her well enough to know that she's super unhappy, but she is got this bland look on her face so that Cheery doesn't pick up on it. Um, so she says, so
Hold on.
basically,
It took a second for that to digest. Tesara, can you give me a bluff or a?
Well, she hasn't lied yet,
No.
so
It's to conceal what you just stated.
Since you said you were putting on a neutral expression for cheery's sake,
Right.
a lot can be gleaned from tone of voice and body language.
I can't think of a better skill than bluff. You, Duro?
No, that was what I was thinking as well. As soon as you said to roll bluff, I knew exactly why you wanted her to.
Yeah.
okay. Can somebody remind me what the point advantage is on Origin for skills?
Plus 10 for force skills, at least. I don't know what the
It's
non-force skills are.
it's for all skills.
Okay, so it's plus 10.
Okay, I'm gonna roll and take the plus 10. So I rolled a I rolled a negative. I rolled a nat 1 because
Womp womp.
Womp womp womp.
so yeah, she tries to make her face neutral but apparently fails and says, "Well, so now we are squarely in the middle of something that we cannot get out of." I don't see either way there being a winning option. Do you, Duro?
Out of character, sorry, can you repeat that? I missed the last thing.
So it appears as if we are now in a situation that has no good option. We fight, we fight. If we don't fight, we choose. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, we don't have to do anything at all. The whole point of this contest is whoever the spirits wish to rule, they will ensure that side wins. We could chalk our inadvertent help up to the spirits wanted this village to win, and we were their vessel. We could justify it that way and just walk away and do nothing. Let things be as they will be.
Um, Sorry, I'm trying to decide what to do.
So, out of character, is Tasara doing or saying anything to that statement?
Can we freeze Tessara for a moment?
I mean, seems a little hot for that, but sure.
I mean, it is a desert.
I mean, if we got a waterbender, maybe she would thaw out pretty quickly.
Yes. We can make more fried chicken references.
It's finger licking good.
Okay. So she looks at him and says, "What I mean is, we help this village win, their baby dies. We help them win, or they win on their own. Even if we fight, this baby dies. That's what I mean."
Yes. And as terrible as that is, babies do die. This is not our culture or our planet. This isn't our fight, and it's not our responsibility to get involved.
So you're advocating not getting involved.
I have a suggest. I have first of all, I have a point of order. Is it not the role of the Jedi to bring peace?
The Jedi do bill themselves keepers of the peace, but where I feel the Jedi have gone wrong is that they insert themselves into everyday affairs. The way I've seen it, based on my study, is that the Jedi are nature's defense against the dark side, against corruption and chaos within the Force. mundane matters such as this, ones that do not have an overt force influence from, say, a Darksider, for example, are not our responsibility. A Jedi only acts when it serves balance. And
Ah,
while this does not feel like our action would serve balance, it does feel like the right thing to do, which is another lesson I have been given lately. That sometimes we must ignore the will of the Force in order to do the right thing. Hence my conundrum. Do I do what I know a Jedi should and sit this one out? Or do I do what's right and try to save the lives of both children while still finding a peaceful solution to the ruler issue?
indeed. But I do believe you're overlooking several key factors. Judging by the size of the village and the number of warriors present here, I would say that the home field advantage isn't much of an advantage. They have, roughly from what I can tell, maybe looks like he looks around 50 or so warriors looking at craft that have come. It's more closer to 100, possibly about 125 warriors. The defenders are outnumbered.
Then perhaps the spirits have chosen the new arrivals rather than the Valfolk.
And
That is my point. But go on.
and yet they are your friends. You've eaten with them. You have taken they have taken in our friends and protected them, harbored them. You would turn on them.
No, I would not turn on them. I
So
would simply not fight with them.
so you would abandon them. Interesting.
As was stated before, there is no way to win this. If we stay and fight, we lose. If we don't stay and fight, we lose. If we betray the villagers by not assisting them in the battle, they will cast us out and we will likely have to leave this planet very quickly. If we do stay and fight with them, we've betrayed those that assisted us to get here in the first place from the Gungnir. There is no winning to this that I can see.
Of course there is.
Yes, of course there is. You're forgetting one very important lesson I taught you on Lannis.
She
Think
just
back
stands
to
there
some of,
waiting.
think back to some of your earliest lessons. What did I tell you?
Well,
If the rules of the game prevent you from winning,
I'm not sure exactly what he's trying to get at. However, I was referring to we arm our friends and fight beside them and ensure their victory. Therefore, we have won.
well, yes, that is an option as well. The lesson, by the way, was if the rules of the game prevent you from winning, change the rules.
That is cheating.
So, only if you get caught. But no, in this instance, what I mean is we can try to act as Jedi and try to find a more peaceful solution to this affair. Why must there be bloodshed at all?
As 1,000 years worth of tribal ritual and spiritual and battle beliefs dictate it so. We're asking them to change their entire culture on a dime?
Maybe not on a dime. But every journey of self-discovery begins with but a single step.
Because you believe yours path is better. The speeder are pauses for 16 weapons, blaster rifles, and blaster rifles, and 12 black pistols. In the event of hostility, and
Very good.
quickly train up the locals.
You've been watching too many holodramas, he'll say to the handyman with a grin. Anyway, none of this soul searching solves the issue of we have only accomplished half of our marketplace visit.
Tesara nods at him. Then I would hasten your steps, sir.
Why don't you and Handyman take the girls that have not been to the market yet to the market? Let them do their shopping. I will take the ones who have finished and take them back towards our speeder. That will take me also towards what is happening, and I can either return them to the speeder and attempt to return them to the ship, or I can get a better idea of what's happening and see if maybe I can talk some sense into both parties about to start fighting.
I will do that. So she actually. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody else talked?
I just said Dura would nod and give the relevant instructions in Cybisti.
Yes, I'll take Cheery and the other girls, and we will meet you up.
I thought Cheery was in the first round of girls.
Oh, Cheery,
Yes.
would you like to come back with us to the market with the other girls or go with Durro?
I'll go with Durro.
Okay. So she smiles at her, releases her hand, and turns to the other girls.
So, Durro, you're heading back to the speeder. You
Indeed.
you see already a line of warriors starting to form up. Getting closer to this area, you can see that there's much more preparation for the coming conflict. The visitors have disembarked and formed up their ranks.
Anything else?
You do see where you see Nazil, and you also see Garin.
What about Phelan?
Not see.
Jarin is her son, though, right?
Yes.
Dura will steer his group over to those two. Well, yeah, two.
As you walk up, you see Jarin talking to Nazil, discussing the blaster in her hand. It looks like he's pointing to different aspects of it.
And in basic, Dura will address them both. Jarin, Nazil. Jarin, have you seen your mother lately?
She is with the professor. Not that she would involve herself.
So she would stay neutral were she here.
I do believe.
And what about you?
He pats the lightsaber on his hip. Smiles.
Are you trained to use it?
My father was the great Curious Chun. Of course I was trained to use.
Out of character, I missed it. About how old is he?
Um oh my god, I'm trying to remember. He's mid
I think 16, right?
Yeah, he's mid teens.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I'm like, I don't actually know how old this kid is. Well, try not to get yourself killed.
you going to join us?
In the sense that I would like to find a less violent solution to this.
You mean?
Well, I know what the consequences are for those that lose. I am seeing how many warriors there are on both sides, and I'm wondering if there is a path forward that does not involve infanticide.
Why?
Because I think both children deserve a chance at life, even if only one of them can be the queen. Or king, I don't know both children.
Save every child. What of the messenger? Will you save her?
Out of character, who is her?
Messenger. He is unaware that Durro may not know who this person is, so give him.
No, I got the impression he was pointing to something. That's why I asked out of character who is her.
Oh, no. He wasn't pointing at anyone. He was just asking you, would Durro save the messenger? Save her.
But he didn't say messenger, he just said her.
No, he said messenger.
Ah, okay. Durro sighs and says, I had not intended to interfere with your traditions.
Yet you're going to interfere here.
Only in an attempt to make peace. That is what the Jedi do, is it not? Make peace?
You're going to make peace. You're going to be victorious and be several decades of pain.
Peace at the end of a lightsaber, and he'll glance at Nyzeel, or a blaster, is not peace. Take it from someone who's tried. In the end, everyone loses.
Azil will look at you pointedly, so you will not fight beside your friends. Jaren told me that Jedi were great warriors, capable of incredible warriors.
The Jedi are capable of great feats, but it is not wars that make Jedi great. It is not the Jedi's place to be warriors.
So that means that she pauses for a second as if trying to collect her thoughts. But you are a warrior.
I was.
Are you afraid to fight?
No. I know there is a lot of conflict in my future, and I will face it with all of the courage I can muster. But that doesn't mean I seek out conflict. That doesn't mean I relish combat.
Why?
Because it's not the way of the Jedi. It's not the way of balance.
But Jedi are warriors.
The Jedi are not warriors. At least they shouldn't be.
Why? They have great power to wield, to bring the wrath of the wrath of the gods before their enemies.
And who do you think those enemies are? What propaganda have the Jedi fed you?
She looks at him confused and looks to Jarn, and they kind of speak back and forth, and Jarn kind of laughs a little bit. She doesn't know what the word propaganda means.
Well, you do. So what propaganda have you and your mother fed these people about the Jedi?
Um, he laughs. Literally, he laughs. We arrived here when these people were being attacked. My father led a small force of less than 10 against an army of hundreds, defeated them. My father protected these people, gave his life for them. I didn't have to tell them anything. They witnessed it. Nazil witnessed it firsthand.
So all she's seen of the Jedi is them acting as warriors.
She saw of the Jedi defending the weak.
And tell me, who was the enemy you fought against?
Rose and her Darksiders, her minions of droids.
And that is the only enemy a Jedi should be fighting against. Those that wield the dark side. Those that corrupt the Force and disrupt balance. He gestures to the newcomers. They are not of the dark side. They do not wield it for their own purposes. It's not a Jedi's place to fight them.
Who says?
Jedi philosophy, if you claim to follow it.
There's no such philosophy as that. None that I'm aware of. None that my mother has taught me.
Then your education is incomplete.
Possibly. Or you're just flawed in your assumptions. Lord Hoth did dictate to the Jedi to seek out and destroy the dark side. This is true, but the Jedi also have stand guard against all threats.
Even those that have nothing to do with the Force or it being out of balance.
Simply because it's the use of the Force? He scratches his head. Or, I'm sorry, simply because it's not the use of the Force? No longer the Jedi's responsibility? That doesn't sound like my father. My father believed in defending people no matter who they were. What do you think will happen if they win? He points to the newcomers.
Then the child born here during the storm will be killed, along with any of the warriors that died in trying to enforce this village's will on
And
the other.
do you think they'll just leave? Like that? No. They'll plunder the village, take what they want food, treasure, slaves. And then they'll leave and they'll cross the desert back to their home. And whoever is left will have to rebuild. Women would have lost fathers and husbands, brothers. Families would be destroyed. The village would suffer greatly.
And that won't happen if this village wins.
Not here. No. The other village will lose fathers, brothers, sons, daughters. But their village will not be plundered. Their families will not starve. Not to mention the fact that when my mother and I first arrived, this was the only village willing to take us in. We know, we tried. No one would even bother to talk to us. These people would. They were kind and compassionate to us. They saw my mother as a great oracle of the gods that could wield their power she wished. Fortunately, that's also what they saw during the battle. And I, too, am force sensitive. I wield the Force like my mother and my father before me. I feel for these people. They are my family. If you do not wish to fight, that's fine. I don't expect you to. You have nothing here with us. But don't sit there and tell me that I shouldn't.
No, I wouldn't claim to tell you what you must or must not do. I would simply point out the teachings and the philosophy you follow.
Your teachings and philosophies are wrong. These are my family, friends. He looks into Zeal and smiles. Those that I love. We'll fight beside them. I will, if necessary, take life for them, for their defense and their prosperity.
And how is this battle going to start?
Well, they, points to the newcomers, still waiting for a couple more of their raiders to arrive. Unfortunately, due to traditions, there are certain rituals that must take place prior to the combat. The legitimacy of the two claims must be proven by the elders of both groups. More or less, rules of the combat established.
And what is the normal outcome of such discussions?
There are formalities. Never experienced one before. This is the first time for me. He turns into Zeal and speaks to her. She pauses for a moment, thinks, and then shakes her head. Speaks, answers back to him, and turns to you and says, "The queen that I was born on been prosperity across the tribes. We've not been without a."
I see, so none of you can tell me what kind of rules are normally agreed upon.
There are these tablets that the elders will bring with them. Tablets handed down by the first ones.
And have you read these tablets? Do you know what information they contain?
I do not.
Then how do you know your dire prediction will come true? That if this force wins, that they will plunder the village, take what they want, destroy the lives of everyone here. You've never experienced anything like this, nor have you been told any history of when it's happened before.
Nazil will raise a hand to pause you. We've not experienced a time without a queen before, but we have fought off raiders. Raiding each other's villages, part of who are. And she'll turn and point to some of the slaves in eyesight. Where do you think they came from?
Oh, I had a very good idea where they came from.
And you notice the leader and two others from the visitors approaching. He calls out something. Nazil scoffs and speaks to Jarin, who then nods and turns to Durro and says, "Their leader wants to talk to you. Shall we?"
Durro will nod and walk over there.
Um, as you're walking over there, you notice the girls with you are starting to follow you.
Ah, yes. Nizia, will you take these girls to our speeder?
She
And
looks kind of pointedly at you, but then nods.
They are familiar with you, and I'd rather not have them here in harm's way.
Jaren will roll his eyes. There won't be a harm's.
All right, then, well, will someone at least keep an eye on them while I talk to the other tribal leader?
Nazil will just shrug. I'll take them to your speedo.
Durro will nod.
Know that she's a competent warrior. The task that you gave her is more that of a nanny, servant.
Maybe. Maybe not.
Tell you that's how she perceived it. You could see it in her expression. Still, I don't think that she expects you to know any better.
Well, I'll apologize after all this has resolved. That wasn't my intention. I
It's not.
simply knew the girls were familiar with her. I didn't want the stranger to have to deal with them.
So you walk up, and it's you and Jaren and the leader and his two minions following, and you notice that they have their weapons drawn. Not the leader, the minions, and they each have rounded shields. And he speaks, Jaren. He wants to know why you're among us. He said he believed that you said you would not fight with foul people.
Tell him I've not pledged myself to fight, that we were going into the village as we had already said, and I came to see what the new developments were.
Jaren will translate and will visibly be frustrated. And he'll poke Jaren with the tip of his looks kind of like a bone style, and say something very apparently vulgar. And Jaren just smiles.
What did he say?
Hold on. Answering your statement. He made references about my mother. Her presence is known wide and far. He swore that if she takes the field, that God would strike her down.
Yes, well, fortunately, she is not here.
Fortunately. And Jared will say something back. Man will get right into Jaren's face, and he stands almost a foot taller than Jaren, and looking down at him. Jaren looks, you can feel the weaves of the force flowing around Jaren as he's pulling it closer into him, into his muscles. And the man says something, and Jaren defiantly says something back. And he turns, and him and his two guards walk back.
So what's happening now?
He says that the off-worlders should be banned from fighting, that this is not their matter.
And your response?
You wouldn't approve, he says, turning him.
I would still like to know.
Why? You have no intention of You have no intention of involving yourself, so why does it matter?
Because I asked. And I said I was hesitant to fight alongside you. I never said I was not involving myself. In fact, I expressly said that I wanted to find a more peaceful solution to this.
I did tell him much of what you said. I told him that you were a great wielder of the magic of the gods, that you were at one time prize apprentice of my mother's, well, in their native language, learner, and that you were known for wreaking destruction and havoc wherever you stepped, and that you'd be wise to heed your warnings, lest you destroy everything in his village here. Just twitch of your eye. You see, you're already helping to bring peace by your presence.
Durro gives him a disapproving look. Next time, I would prefer to speak for myself, rather than have a child speak for me.
It was basically what you wanted to say. Now they'll listen to you. You don't know anything of these cultures. You just think you know better, but you don't understand. You realize that these people value death more than they value life.
No, I will admit, I do not know much about these cultures.
They are highly spiritual and superstitious. Yes, they see the Force as the magic of the gods. I saw a punishment one time. A man had done horrible things. We'll just leave it at that. But his crime was so great that they brought him to the center of the village and he was to be put to death. Do you know how he was put to death? And mind you, this isn't about the gore or the brutality of it. It's something different. They walked him there like a man. No chains, no shackles. Nothing. He dropped to his knees, opened his shirt, moved his hair, put his head on a stump, and silently waited for them to cut his head off. And they celebrated his death. Not because he was a bad man and they were celebrating the destruction of evil, but they celebrated because he had embraced death in an honorable fashion, that he would be welcomed by the spirits, join his ancestors. You want to prevent them from finding.
And you want to prevent your village from finding the same.
No, no. I want my village to be successful. I want my village to be victorious. I don't want to see needless suffering. A warrior's death is one thing. He'll motion to the warriors that have gathered. Each one of them are looking forward to the death, the combat they thrive for, the brutality, the destruction. Everything about what they are is violence and destruction, brutality. Of course, it has to end in death, somebody's death. They welcome it. Don't the Jedi embrace death?
For themselves, if that is the will of the Force. They do not impose it on others. Then he glances down at Jaren's, and Jaren's lightsaber on his hilt and says, well, some of them might.
It was my father's. And it has always served to defend.
Always has it? It's never taken a life that it should not have? Never destroyed anybody or anything innocent?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, as I said before, your education is incomplete.
Think you know of my father's lightsaber?
I can think of one murder that would have been committed were it not for your mother's interference.
Ah, but then it didn't. Did it?
Not in the one instance, but if
Oh.
he was willing to do it then, I wonder what other times he might have when your mother was not around to stop him.
I will say this, my education is more complete than you're aware of. While I may not know of instances, I can extrapolate during my father's dark years. Did succumb to the dark side. I can imagine what horrific things he did. Still, you are here by the will of the Force. Who's to say you weren't brought here to fight beside?
If that is the if that is the case, then I certainly need to get the girls back to our ship before any fighting breaks out. It's not something they should have to witness.
Or be here if we lose and become subject to be slaves themselves.
Indeed.
And on that note, I'm going to pause. Professor Kenobi.
Yeah.
You
Hey.
are you are sitting on one of the high walls overlooking the village. You can see what's going on around down below. It's where the graves are. Phelan is sitting next to you. And she has explained to you the whole situation, what you could see, based off of her best assumptions. In the distance, you can see the four approaching craft.
Approaching craft. What do they look like?
They kind of look like they kind of look like triremes, but they run on sand.
That's weird. And I'll point it out. Phelan.
They're called sand skimmers. They're for they're designed for long distance traveling. The village has a handful of them.
Should we move or are we good?
We're good here. I highly doubt they'll come up. Even if they did, my reputation precedes me. They won't dare challenge me.
You know, normally whenever I say that, that's when I'm immediately challenged.
I could go down there and put an end to this, but I don't know if I should.
Yeah? Why interfering with the natural progression of the way that the civilization is going?
No, God, no. Don't hold true to such an ideal. No, I am quite certain that my son is down there with Nazil, girl that he absolutely just adores. I don't want to take this from him. He wants so badly to be part of this.
Hmm.
The Val folk are incredible fighters.
Yeah?
I don't think that they'll lose, and with the disadvantage of numbers. That and my son is a very competent warrior. Was trained.
Do they have any force multipliers?
My son himself is a force multiplier, gifted like his father.
You know, on Coruscant, we usually reserved gifted for the incredibly intelligent and the incredibly stupid.
Well, when it comes to matters of the heart, my son is incredibly stupid and foolish. When it comes to matter of pride, I do believe he doubles down on those two disadvantages. But when it comes to the force, I would say he is incredibly intelligent. Well, at least how he sees.
Hmm. Now it makes me wonder what it's going to turn out. I kind of want to watch that.
Well, do you want to head down there? Or we can watch it from a distance.
Well, you say you don't want to take it from them. Do you want to be close enough in case things go south? Or are you into the complete, like I am with my crew? Trust them to make mistakes and to fix the mistakes that they make, even if it costs them their lives.
She rises to her feet. I don't trust them that much. After all, these are my people, my home. I swore to be part of their tribe, and they welcomed trials.
Yeah, but the problem with saving someone who isn't yourself is that it's an endless process.
Of course. That's why
And
they
once
call me the Witch of the Sands.
you do realize I'm going to joke,
I'm sorry?
you do realize I'm going to make a joke about that.
She smiled, almost blushing a little, and then just shakes her head and turns and starts to lead you down the long path that takes you from the graves.
Okay. I will follow her and I will loosen the hilt of the sword and for my pistol just in case, but it's underneath my jacket since I tend to dress like it's incredibly cold regardless of where I am.
Why do you do that, by the way?
Hmm?
Why do you do that? Why do you have so much faith and confidence in your companions that you would let them make decisions that you know are going to lead them astray, or worse, lead them to their death?
Because I believe in investing in people. It's it's all well and good after something has happened to say that you could have done it better if you only did this, if you made this gesture, if you said this word, if you meant this at that time, that everything can just be tied up with a neat little bow and it will just work out. That's not how life works. Life works, it's messy, it's dirty. We rarely ever get a conclusion that we like. Hell, if we're even lucky enough to get a conclusion. And so, for me, each one of them are an investment. I may not believe in everything that they do, or even what their motivations are, but we've gotten here this far together. I'm going to believe in them to decide how they want their story to move forward. If it happens to be that they want to run headfirst into a sandstorm and get absolutely blasted by sand, well, that's on them.
Just stop and turn and cup your cheek hand. So just smile. You are so much daughter. So I have to say I've watched her multiple times and pull her hand away, run headlong into a wall. Not a sandstorm, but a literal wall. Run through it.
Well, to be fair, you never really know if it's going to be a secret passageway until you try.
That's exactly what she said. Did you know that
I,
these people here, they have their religious order? They believe that there was a group of powerful gods that came here. It's central piece of their pantheon. They came here through, well, call it hyperspace. They call it the Great Worm. And gods arrived here. First one. However, there is ancient ruins dated back long before. This is what I find complex left of it. Praise that. However, as vast as it was, only one place I could identify bedroom.
what do you mean?
There's a space.
That
Go ahead.
this entire place, the space wasn't used for habitation?
I don't know. It's not a mystery.
Where is this?
Far to the far to the west, beyond the great sea. I had a speeder. It was left over from invasion. For some reason technology doesn't last on. Traveled as far as I could go to see if other places ships might have landed. My son and I could travel and tour the area. Found these ruins.
Well, that sounds like a fun adventure before we leave. I have a feeling that we'll have to leave with the ship within the inside of a week, or else it won't get off this planet.
Ship as big as yours? Say, push a week and a half. Not much more than that. You're risking serious damage. It's in the electronics that suffers first.
See, now I have a curiosity on that because my ship is not current tech. My ship is a piece of an archaeological find that I had found. and I named it after the poem for the ribbon, the poem of the ribbon, because I believe that the ship itself was a gift from one of the last remaining ships of the Hue.
The name does not ring a bell. Sorry. I often sometimes feel like you're probing me for information and feel guilty not having it.
That's just how I talk. Honestly, I'm an endless siphon of information.
Well, I hope that with your company, I was able to reciprocate with information that pour on other people.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's not a gifting based requirement. Although knowledge is power inherently, the idea is that information that flows freely, although it tends to be dismissed because it doesn't have a cost associated to it, allows for the formation of a different perspective.
These people see information, knowledge, gift from the spirits, a gift from the gods.
Knowledge can be a gift, but it also is a burden. If you feel the need to reciprocate because you feel as though what you offer is not in the same exchange rate of what you receive, then you're already falling into the trap of what knowledge isn't. Knowledge is not a. How can I say this? Knowledge is not for one dragon to hoard. It's meant to be a tool to explain things that are more complex.
She pause again and turn and look at him. I don't feel that what I offer is adequate for what I feel like I've gifted. There are many fine men, even my age, you're up to intellect, patience, good men, wrong. This past day with you smiles. I've missed that of my.
It's not easy losing someone that you love dearly, but you're a beautiful woman, and I've enjoyed the time in which we've spent together talking. And he's gonna kiss her.
She'll gently embrace and kiss him. Turn the kiss. She looks around, almost sheepishly. I was worried that we were going to be interrupted by lightsaber jealous redhead again.
It seems to be the case that no matter what I'm doing, somebody's gonna yell or run towards me and shout how something's terrible or just happened. I'm telling you, this time of me not shepherding them like children, somebody's gonna be hurt. Somebody's gonna be like, there's gonna be another brand new adoption that's gonna happen that I'm not even aware of. There's gonna be, where did all the cupcakes go? Well, we decided to give for a humanitarian gesture to give all of our food over to these poor immigrants.
She just giggles and continues walking down.
They're the most fascinating and frustrating groups of squatters that I've ever had in my life.
Well, Master Thaltanus is keenly unique person. I was looking forward to having a conversation with him before he took off running into the sandstorm. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, I was agreeing with you. I just said, yeah, yeah.
Tesara is interesting and a remarkable young woman. You can see that she has greatness ahead of her. As for the other two, I have is just the one experience. Well, Astra is Astra's amazing. I like
Oh,
her. Don't get me wrong.
Astra is the equivalent of having an ice cream headache.
I can see that. Though I didn't realize she harbored feelings for you in such a way to interrupt our shared experience of wine. It was
Oh,
charming.
oh, oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think she's overprotective of me because, although, it's kind of interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it, uh, how old would you say that you think I am, Phelan?
Never been good at such thing. Definitely say best
200.
word.
Yeah. So it's weird. The timeline gets a little blurry when you've been alive for a long period of time. But the reason that I mention this is now that I'm thinking about it, wonder. I wonder.
She's
I wonder if
smart,
Astra is who she says she is.
and if we all are who takes you by the arm. She leans in a little bit and whispers, I have always been a daddy issue.
Ha! You and my daughter.
She says with a smile. It was your daughter who made such a despite my infatuation with love affair and gave me a beautiful son.
Urius, that name sounds not familiar at all.
My late husband.
Ah, apologies. I think of him as the late husband, not Urius, because I never met him.
I think you would have liked him.
I think so. I mean, anybody who has your sense of taste can't be off with associating.
Darius was a complicated person. He had my sense of taste. I will say this. His son is just like him. Foolish of matters of the heart. When it came to matters of pride, he doubled down on that weak. Passionate. Good at what he did.
Passion is so rare nowadays. I see so many younglings. One thing you can never accuse Doro, Hadaza, or Tesara, or Astra is a lack of passion. What they're passionate about? Doesn't matter. But they're passionate about it intensely.
Well, it was on full display earlier today.
Makes me wonder, you really want to. I would recommend if you're going to talk to Dora, you should talk with Astra. She's a fascinating case study of what I believe was multiple personality disorder, but what was discovered was a giant batch of force ghosts, personality spirits that lives inside of her head because she's a force oracle.
That's why you asked me about oracles earlier.
Yeah, I wanted to see if you knew anything about it. Because there's one of their aspects that she holds a grudge to me because I used medication to suppress the parasite inside of her, which I believe was taking over her. And the parasite inside of her decided that she would hold a grudge because I did exactly what I said I would do. What a surprise. I guess she's not used to men who do what they say.
Must not be. Can't be faulted for making a mistake.
Oh, but to err is human. Forgive is divine. And for force users who are capable of using divine energy, very little forgiveness. Very judgmental, I find. That's why I believe Durro is the only true, apologies if I'm going to hurt your feelings, but the only true Jedi I've ever met. Because I've seen him in action. All of the action. I've seen him.
I can't speak for my husband. Forgiveness wasn't one of his better qualities.
Forgiveness. I mean, on the flip side, we're all primal beasts, and it's much easier to put a rival in the grave than it is to tolerate a rival out there, you know?
Was good at
H-
that.
How much distance have we traveled at this point?
You're moving through the village.
Okay.
I mean, if you want me to speed it up to you arrive at Durrell, we can do that.
No, I'm enjoying the pacing. I just want to make sure that the pacing is, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy the back and forth. I don't want that to stop.
Okay.
Making sure we're walking and not just staring into each other's eyes lovingly as the time goes by. Because I was under the impression that somebody's about to get into a fight.
You know, you could stay here. We could explore those ruins. They're vast, deep. I spent a month and covered roughly about 10%. Of course, I think your droid will do better, would very well here, but hey,
I know. I could have a happy ending. But, and this is going to sound incredibly selfish, I too hold grudges. And the sheer audacity of that controlling parasitic mind worm to manipulate my daughter, my blood, it's personal. It used to be just like Chicken Little. Have you ever heard the story of Chicken Little?
no, I don't believe I have.
The sky is falling, he would say, but the sky never falled until today. And then he ran around and tried to warn everybody. Nobody believed him. And I feel a lot like Chicken Little, at least at the start. Tell people about the swarm, and it didn't go to heart. And then I find that not only am I right, but there's this group of people who are in to fight.
Frowns deeply. There is something I could tell you that might help, but we'd need an oracle. We'd need Astra. Have I ever told you how your daughter was out of terms, corrupted?
What do you mean?
Your hand, please.
Okay.
You'll take your hand and open it and hold it palm facing up. There is the mall cluster. Deep within it, as she draws lines, there are space lanes protected. However, and she like touches an area where the lines in your hand don't meet. Empty space away here. Find just like this place here. A place protected by managed to reach the black hole. Instead of there you'll look like much. Anyone who not see her, don't drink from it, bathe in your hand, unless you consume things you haven't eaten. But for a seer gaze, she's able. She could see distant world, universe, dimensions, places the mind can.
Hmm.
But there's a she steps off the path to be lost.
Yeah, I'll probably not tell her that. I'll give them full information, of course. But, telling them not to do something's like telling a toddler not to do something.
She'll giggle. This world we were facing, dark side. Rose discovered the pool. Hard way. She was knocked into it. We didn't think much of it. It was her first journey. Distant place. Stood by demonic. She had nightmares. Fortunately, we couldn't leave. The ship was damaged. Journey there.
Hmm.
Nightmares drew her back. That's where she was corrupted. I don't know how well this will help. I hope that this will help you on your journey. She frowns again. That is, choose not to stay. Not to stay here.
Part of me. Part that never got to stay with the shared wants to end it here on Origin. Because, at this point, all of the tools should be in the hands of those who are competent enough to wield the strike. And yet, find myself at an odd point in my life where it would be a happy ending for me, and it would destroy the universe. I don't think people really know at the end what I did in any meaningful way. Maybe it'll just be pointless. Nothing will really change. The Jedi and Sith will still go against each other with aggressive desires. There'll be another big bad that'll show up with another world ending device. But I think that's the choice of this galaxy. Decide its own fate. And even if I have to be the catalyst to ensure that the lock is locked, then it's what I gotta be. And a lot of that involves running towards the equivalent of a mountain, trying to stab it with a toothpick.
Oh. She says with a smile. I see your friend over there, Master Thaltanus. Shall we join him?
Yeah, let's do that.
He doesn't look happy. I wonder what trouble my son is stirring with him. Darrow, see Phelan and Professor Kenobi walking up.
Hello there. How pleasant of you to join us.
Hello there.
It was lovely evening and morning. After so much of more, says with a
Oh,
Smile.
yes, a regular Casanova, our professor. Meanwhile, there is about to be a battle.
Oh, is it? Let me guess. Is somebody hurt?
No, apparently one of the neighboring villages had a child born during the storm, as did this village. And he'll
Okay.
give Lynn a pointed look, expecting her to understand what is going on.
she offers no visible intention of speaking up.
And the professor's going to stare at you blankly.
So apparently a child born during the storm is blessed by the spirits, all four elemental spirits, and rules these people as monarch. However, when there is a contest, when more than one child was born during the storm, then the spirits must decide which of them will be the new monarch and which one will be destroyed. And it seems as if that is a trial by combat. The neighboring
Oh,
village.
sweet. We're going to have baby knife fights?
Oh, yes, two newborns going at it to the death. No, it seems that the warriors. The
Phelan's
war.
gonna Phelan's gonna lean in. And it's like the neighboring tribes will send their warriors. They have. This tribe will defend with their warriors, which apparently they're going to do.
Oh. And see, now I was under the impression that you had some sort of arena for babies where they hash this out in a reasonable one-on-one combat. That's the only logical answer for me. And he smiles.
She just blushes.
So, you want to have a war? Let's do a little war.
Is that what you want, Professor? To arm these people and help them win their conflict?
Arm them? No. No, I'm good with that. They have their own technology. But, I'm going to look at Phelan. I'm not passive. They came over here to start something. We could probably just dissuade them by giving a quick fly over by the Gungnir, but I'm not sure what kind of religious epiphany that would have.
There's, from what I understand, there is deep-rooted traditions that need to. It would definitely strike fear in the raiders, but then again, looking over at Nazil, who's now walking back, I don't believe that will be all necessary. She motions to draw your attention to the blaster in her belt.
Okay.
Take it by that revelation, Sith Altanis, that you'll be joining my tribe on the battlefield?
Not in the way everyone is expecting.
I sense an ulterior motive.
What of you, Phelan? Will you join your tribe in combat? Your son didn't seem to think so.
Only unless I am commanded by the elder. I am a member of the tribe and sworn to obey the leadership here.
And are they likely to not allow you to fight?
I am the Witch of the Sands. If they put me on the battlefield, it's much of a battle.
Wouldn't that be a good thing from their perspective?
Again, traditions, Sultanas. Is that
I see.
disdain in your voice I hear?
No, not disdain. I understand traditions.
You.
It's why I wasn't originally going to be involved at all.
So why are you going to involve yourself now?
Because I've been rightfully reminded that these people have sheltered us and given given supplies to us and in other ways shown themselves friendly to us. And while that does not necessarily mean we owe them in return as it was done out of generosity, they see themselves as our friends and expect us to stand with them as such. I of course wish to prevent the village from being plundered or there being needless suffering, but it doesn't mean I'm trying to abolish all of their traditions.
Okay, so you want your shotgun?
You speak as if I've ever wielded one.
Sure you did. Remember? In Spade?
Oh, yes, yes. Not very well, I remember.
Oh, that was the story you told me about the spinning in space.
I was hoping he would just take it right now and use it. Ah. And I'll open his jacket. You sure?
Master Feltanus, what is your intention?
Well, I am told that there are rules and such that are agreed upon before the conflict starts properly. If I might be allowed to join such proceedings, perhaps you can have your conflict, your contest of arms, without the village being in danger of being sacked should you lose.
I highly doubt the elders will let you be involved in the. Not even a place where.
I see.
As far as sacking the village, things will happen.
So what is it you are suggesting? That I simply join as a warrior? That this party fights alongside your people?
You and I are of equal stature. As I was telling Professor Kenobi, if the elders deem it necessary, of course I will go before and do what I must in the village. Be much of either of us.
You think you or I or both of us together are the equal to 100 of their warriors?
Yeah, I hate to sound like this is forced, but can you just use use the force? Shove like 100 of them into the air, let them drop on the ground? Why do you guys never force push upward? You use it for force jumps, but you never use it just throw somebody directly up into the air.
Because any act that results in death, victim, immediately tainted dark side.
That makes a lot of sense and also explains a lot of things I didn't understand about the Force in one simple sentence that has never been said to me before. You can't hurt people directly with the Force.
Well, I would argue that it's not the force that hurt them, it would be the fall.
You're right, because technically I've seen Jedi Masters throw rocks. Wouldn't you technically be throwing the planet at them?
Anyway, philosophy aside, unlike you, Phelan, I am not a member of this village. If you want my help and the help of my friends, then I must be allowed to be a part of the process in deciding what parameters this battle is waged under. If you can arrange for me to speak with the elders, would be appreciated.
Oh, I say just go, do what I'm going to do.
Just take up arms and fight alongside these people? That is your prerogative, Professor.
No, I was going to watch and see how it plays out.
So, preventing you from speaking with the elders shows that you sit on the sideline.
Yeah, I don't plan on interfering until it starts getting to toddlers doing a knife fight.
And then I assume your interference will be to place bets.
How well you know me.
She smiles and shakes her head. Ah, look. Tesara. She lose some of the younger ones.
Probably traded them for goods and services.
Tesara does arrive with the rest of the girls, and she looks around. Durro, where are the other girls?
At the speeder, I asked Niziel to keep an eye on them. The enemy leader wished to speak with me.
Okay. Well, what's. I'm sorry. Professor, it's nice to see you. Phelan?
Tesara? I like the
Um,
hat.
yes, thank you. Um, pr- Handyman, I had a thought. I believe you said something about that there were weapons in our speeder?
There are. For contingency purposes.
Well, I have an idea that if it's not going to work, I'm not going to hold anything above it, but these people arrived into this village with weapons, unlike anything this village has. Unless Phelan in assists in the fighting with her force skills, this village is likely going to be taken very quickly and probably will be decimated. Why don't we even the score?
Phelan will lean to Professor Kenobi. I'm starting to prefer my earlier thought about silencing Durro with the elders.
Oh yeah?
She says with a smile, not malicious, but just a friendly smile.
Look, it's like I told you before. Toddlers. Okay? Toddlers.
Tesara looks confused. So, is that a no?
It is not my place to make decisions, or. Yeah, it's not my place to make decisions. Have your own group, your own thought processes. It is
I
your activities.
I do not wish to fight. But then again, I don't wish these people to just be taken over with weapons that they don't really know are coming. She looks over at the professor. Sir,
Hey.
you've been teaching me tactical. Sorry, players having the dumb. You've been teaching me tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Would this tactic work?
Which one?
Give these villagers the weapons that we have to defend themselves with against these other people who have come in. And
No.
she nods her head. She looks a little disappointed, but she nods and steps back.
Imagine, if you will, weapon familiarity and the crucible of stress. In stressful times, they're just going to default to what weapon they use the most. Handing them a technically superior weapon isn't going to make them any better at fighting. In fact, it could lower their chances of winning just because they're not used to, for example, reloading it when they need to.
She frowns and looks over at Duro. Is that going to hold true for the people who came in as well?
What do you mean?
Um, the other warriors, the other group that came in to challenge that their child will be queen, that are going to be fighting against these people who also have a queen. If we gave them weapons, they would also not know how to use them either. Am I right?
Yeah, but why would we? Personally, why would we interfere either way? I'm just here to make sure that it doesn't become a slaughter of the village that Fei Lin has grown to love as her own.
That is my wish as well. However, I don't know how to stop them from losing, and or if I even should.
You shouldn't.
Tesara. She looks at Durro. Do you mind if I question your learner?
By all means.
Tesara,
Yes.
why do you feel to help defend these?
They took us in, sheltered us from the storm. They allowed us to move about this village freely without casting us out or treating us unfairly. They have a right to live. And knowing that this other group has a severe advantage over them, I feel it's no longer a fair fight.
These people, she motions to the newcomer. Have they wronged you?
No,
Insulted you?
no,
Done anything to earn your condemnation?
That's a difficult question. Not to me. No.
So then, why would you evolve?
Because I believe that these people in this village expect it of us.
I'm sure most do, especially like those like Nazil who have seen the power of the off-world. Don't believe the right thing do or this do. If the off-worlders defend this village, slaughter the attacking forces, then who's to say the other queen wasn't truly meant to rule?
After all, the other queen has their own society that's willing to put everything on the line.
Think of it this way, Tesara. It goes back to one of the core lessons I've taught you about the Jedi. The Jedi act in order to maintain balance. If we fight in defense of this village, if we join them and defeat a force that outnumbers us 3-1, what will happen the next time a village feels the need to raid this one or attack this one? They won't know that we've gone or that they may suspect we've stayed. So what will they do?
Double
They will
down.
come in even greater numbers with even greater force. And will we be here when that happens? Will
Right. The
we be
sand
able to,
people startle easily.
and will we be here when this greater force arrives, expecting us to be there to defend?
So, although you trained me to be a peacekeeper and taught me the ways of doing this, that is not our place here. So we do nothing.
I taught you that everything that I taught you is to be used only when it maintains balance. We will not be here to protect these people continuously, and this is a natural cycle of their civilization. To act would be to throw off.
Oh, we lost. There he is.
I believe my idea was to try to achieve balance, but she kind of makes a gesture of acquiescence, I guess, and says, in offering to give them weapons that would give balance, but I accede to your wisdom, master.
Tesara,
After all, they didn't earn the technology. It would just be a gift. They still wouldn't understand how to manufacture or even replenish.
and it's not like such technology would be long lasting. Technology on this world doesn't last very long. While I can't explain it, I can say this. Smaller the piece of equipment, faster it breaks down. Look around. You don't see the twisted hulks of burning tanks and destroyed droids or crashed. It was some type of ship. But you don't see their remains because gone. The only piece of technology that I've discovered that doesn't go away is, and she'll pull out her lightsaber.
Deliberate. That is deliberate. You say you don't understand the reason? Well, it's because your planet operates off of the same principle that the Prelox planet does. High technology will slowly be drained to continue to fuel the frequency that protects the planet. and will keep the technology levels suppressed so it will never become a beacon for the swarm to discover. Whereas the lightsaber's exception is because the lightsaber is considered almost at this point a timeless representation of a force wielder who would be pursuing this information to begin with.
Might be truth. Your thoughts, Master Thaltanis?
Perhaps it has something to do with the force-sensitive nature of the kyber crystal at the heart of the lightsaber. I cannot say for certain.
Always makes me wonder. Kyber crystal sounds cooler than Jedi. Why aren't you guys called Kybers?
Tesara chuckles a little. I must get the girls back to the speeder and back to the Gungnir. Thank you. And she looks around at all of them and nods in like polite thanks and then turns to go.
I appreciate that, Tesara. Thank you.
Handyman will turn. I have a patient to check on. And Professor, when you get a chance, I've made a remarkable discovery in the desert. Found a body. Secrets it has unlocked.
Yes. And who's talking?
Handyman.
Say again?
Handyman.
Thank you. Cool.
And she'll turn to Thaltanis, and Phelan will say, I did have intentions to speak with you, Master Thaltanis.
Yes, and I had hoped to speak with you as well. Perhaps when all this is behind us.
If you wish.
He will bow respectfully and say, I do wish. Thank you.
Then I will be returning to my home. She smiles at Professor Kenobi and leans up and gives him a kiss on the cheek. I'll keep my hearth warm for you. She'll turn and
See
start
you.
walking away. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, he just said see ya.
It's just you
He
two.
was acknowledging. Yeah.
Dura
So,
will
Dora.
glance after Phelan and say, is that something I should know about?
Sure. What do you
Well,
want to know?
you and Phelan seem to have hit it off.
It must be the old soul in me. Or maybe it's the fact that I can hold a conversation without just looking at her banging body.
Though I'm sure you were doing that as well.
You know, it's the beautiful thing about peripheral vision. What younglings never figure out. Just stare at the titties.
So what are your thoughts on this showdown? Are you going to stay in the village to observe?
You know, honestly, I want to be. How could I put it this? This is a political fight, and I don't do politics unless I get paid. But, and I stress this, if it turns into a slaughter of of this village, then we'll step in.
Well, that was my intention. That was the intention I made clear from the start. I'm willing to let them have their ritualistic combat. I'm even willing to stand by and let them continue their ritual infanticide. What I will not stand for is for the should the newcomers win, I am not willing to stand by and let them pillage the Val folk.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Fantastic. So we are all in agreement.
Yes. Now let's go get drunk.
Considering I'm not sure when this conflict is taking place and when our services may or may not be required, that was probably not the best idea.
The beautiful thing about war is that war is always happening. It just never works on a convenient timeline. But you can always have a drink.
I suppose. I guess some people fight better when they're drunk.
I mean, I drive better when I drink.
Durro will just give him a look.
And I'll just smile. Or, well, technically I just drive better. Amazing.
Right. Well, I'm going to return to where this face-off is happening and see what's going on.
I'll join you.
All right, it's 9:53. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Do I have any questions or comments?
Yes, I have one comment.
What?
Good night.
Good night, Professor.
I have a legit question. Explain to me the timeline of how Phelan and the professor were in the village that whole time.
They weren't
They
in the
traveled
village.
the hour. They traveled the hour by foot. Spent time in his library over charcuterie and liqueur, and then walked the hour back in the time that Durro and Tesara were in the market with the girls for all of, 30 minutes.
They didn't walk.
Okay, so they what? Transported? Like the timeline doesn't make any sense.
So you guys, so they went back to the ship, enjoyed some wine, had some conversation, and then left the ship and came back to the village to see Rose's grave.
Again, the timeline doesn't make any sense. Durro and Tesara and the girls have been gone not very long, an hour maybe, because
Yeah.
they arrived at the market.
They had to have been gone longer than an hour.
I'm gonna look at Durro and Tesara for a timeline check on this one. It takes an hour to get from the Gunyer to the market. They arrived at the market and had no money, and were marched step two, step two, step two. That was the last I heard.
Right.
Well, wait a minute. No, it takes an. It doesn't take an hour on speeder, does it?
No, it only takes about if I remember correctly, we decided upon 30 minutes casual, but you can drop that down to 15 if you're pushing it.
Okay, so they've been gone 30 minutes. At what point did the professor arrive at the Gunyer? They would have to have been there before Tesara and Durro left.
What do you mean?
I mean, Astra and Hodge had a conversation on the ob deck.
Yeah.
Right after Tesara and Durro left with the girls.
When did they get on the ship? When did the professor and Phelan arrive on the Gungear?
That is exactly what I'm trying to figure out, man.
And that's where because all you did was you saw them in the library, and then afterwards you did that whole long thing about the Asher trying to teach, and they weren't traveling their slowest speed or their fastest speed coming to the village. In fact, the villagers or the people they were traveling with were traveling much slower than a speeder could get there. And then they arrived, they walked around, Then they did their little exchanging, and then they did at least 30.
Mike, I'm trying to understand how they got to the Gunyear.
Who?
The professor and Phelan. When did they arrive that they slipped under the radar of 4 people awake, aware, and awake and aware of what was going on that ship?
Easy, it's his ship. Why? I mean, you don't think that there's secret
So when did
passages
he
on-
arrive?
When did he arrive?
Yes, when did he and Phelan arrive at the Gunyear?
Explain to me how Hadassah would know this information.
Well, I know because they heard Astra and Hodge heard somebody on the ship. They thought there was an intruder.
Right. We know that that's when they heard them on the ship, but we don't know if that's when they arrived on the ship.
So you mean to tell me that down a hall through a closed door, we heard the giggling of Phelan over a glass of wine, but we would not have heard them, I don't know, wandering around the halls?
No, you heard a child's giggling, not Phelan. 2 different voices.
Yeah, fine. I will give you that. It does not change my question.
Can someone explain the child's giggling then?
No, I will not explain. But I will say this: the professor's ship has a detachable shuttle that's set up on what the hell is it called? Come along circuit.
No, slave circuit is correct.
No, not slave circuit. It's a come along. You'll hear about this in the Thrawn trilogy.
You're deflecting
No, I'm
the
not.
answer that I'm looking for.
I'm literally telling you that's how they get it. He has a shuttle on the Gunyear that's on the top deck. If you look at the
Okay.
Gunyear, it's literally a shuttle. And,
Okay.
And it went.
Isn't that his entire study?
Huh?
Isn't that his entire study?
Maybe. Let me look. I have to.
If it is what I'm thinking it is, I asked you because I had actually watched the movie the ship came from, and when I saw the design, I said, "Isn't that there?" So, are you telling me the professor's study is inside that module? And you told me yes. So he basically made his study come to them. So why did they need to return to the Gungnir at all? They already had the professor's study right there in the village.
Because they weren't in the study. They were in the library.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
That's got to be the answer.
But isn't the alcohol she wanted to try in the professor's study?
True.
No, it was in the.
But the book that he wanted her to translate wasn't.
All right, fair enough. Although I do have my own timeline question, but it has nothing to do with what Hodge is asking about, so I'll let her finish.
I'm more enjoying needling Hodge on this one here.
I want an answer, Mike. The timeline doesn't add up.
I gave you the answer.
You did not give me an answer. You were hemming and hawing and hurrying around all over the sides of it, but you never actually answered the question.
What question are you asking? You asked me when did they arrive?
Yep.
Right? Easy. They arrived before the storm ended.
So they were on board when the Gunyear landed and Cheery came out and knew that they were lost and rescued Durro and Hodge from the storm.
Wait, what do you mean Gunyear landed? The Gunyear hasn't moved.
I mean, I'm sorry, Durro's shuttle was Durro's shuttle.
Yeah.
So they were on board when Durro's shuttle came back in with
No,
Hodge
that
and...
no, that was at the beginning of the storm.
Okay. So they arrived during the storm.
Yeah, they arrived. They arrived. I just told you how. They have a shuttle.
How did the professor's shuttle get into the village?
It flew.
Does anybody remember being on the professor's shuttle in the village? Bowling the party.
It doesn't need to be.
Why not?
This happened towards the end of the storm, so none of the party would have seen the shuttle.
Let's see.
Yeah, but how did the shuttle get to the village?
I just explained this.
there.
It's like you're not listening. He has a come along circuit. Presses the come along circuit. The shuttle comes to where the come along circuit is.
Yeah, except the comlinks were jammed by the storm. Wouldn't the come along circuit be jammed as well?
Thank you.
Maybe.
And she's like, "Thank you."
Okay, well,
Maybe.
the other question then I have is, so Hadassah, I'm sorry, the professor and Fei Lin were aboard the Gungnir in his library when Hadassah and Durro were brought onto the ship and taken to the med bay.
No,
No.
that was at the
They
beginning
arrived-
of the storm.
They arrived while Durro and Hodge were in the back of the tank. Remember, Durro was in the back of the tank for just under 12 hours. So
Okay.
it's within that 12-hour window that the professor and Phelan arrived back.
And how did they get the shuttle?
Just because the comlinks, which operate on a different circuit, doesn't necessarily mean all transmissions were.
Yeah, see, and I knew that would be his action. That's called Rule 0.
Rule 0, yeah.
It's called I'm the GM. I said so.
Hey,
Yeah,
look,
I'm starting to smell some GM, all right. Oh,
You know
wait,
what?
different letters.
if
No, there's
it
plenty of situations in.
just because it stings doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It does work.
It
This
does
is
work.
Theorem X Rectum, dude. Like you
Hey, hey, guys.